Hi, everyone. So earlier today, I published at Beyond the 90 an article about Jesse Marsh and the sort of things he's doing barnstorming through Canada to sell the sport to Canadians in advance of World Cup 2026, which Canada has a small part of co-hosting. It is basically an American World Cup, a U.S. World Cup, I should say. But when you say America, you could be talking about the whole North American continent. You could be talking about the whole of the Americas. So this, to me, is very, very interesting because Canada Soccer is a body and an institution that I've interacted a lot with over the course of the last 2 decades. And I've had the same sort of criticisms I've had for them that I have regularly for the United States Soccer Federation. They're very, very similar institution historically as the USSF. But in hiring Marsh and letting Marsh do fireside chats with fans, letting Marsh go on every television station imaginable, having Marsh really, as I witnessed when I was up in Canada for a few weeks earlier this year, or last year, which now 2026, he's out there like an evangelical, proselytizing about the beauty of the beautiful game. So what does the U.S. have? U.S. Soccer, who neglected to hire Jesse Marsh, the most qualified American-born candidate, on 2 different occasions, 5 years apart, 2018 and 2023. What is U.S. Soccer doing in response? They have the highest ticket prices that anyone has ever seen for friendly matches, for meaningless friendlies. They charge more for friendlies. They charge significantly more for friendlies than the European champion Spain charges for World Cup and European qualifiers. They charge significantly more for friendlies than the 2018 World Cup champion France charges for qualifiers. And we know what the ticket prices are going to be like this summer at the World Cup. What is U.S. Soccer doing? They're gatekeeping. That's what they always do. If there is an effort to grow the game, to grow the sports on a grassroots level, or to spread the professional game, U.S. Soccer either takes a laissez-faire approach or they try and actively impede it. I saw this firsthand when I worked at the NASL. I saw this firsthand when I worked with clubs in the NASL. I saw this firsthand when I worked with clubs in the adult amateur ranks. I saw this firsthand as a journalist. This is a 20-year thing. And we saw it firsthand during the lawsuits, the multitude of lawsuits brought by stakeholders in the game, member leagues, their own charitable foundation, women's national team players against the federation. And they're gatekeeping again. So I wrote a piece the other day about Mauricio Pochettino and him basically telling, and these are my words, okay? Pochettino did not tell Timmy Weah to shut up and shoot, okay? That's me saying the kind of like the shut up and sing mantra that Laura Ingraham and some of the political conservatives in this country directed at entertainers who were liberals several years ago, was basically shut up and sing. Shut up and sing unless you're Ted Nugent, then you're allowed to say whatever you want to say, right? So anyway. So I said, shut up and shoot. That's what he's trying to tell Timmy Weah. Pochettino is reflecting the biases and the corporate considerations of his bosses at U.S. Soccer, who have always played gatekeeper to the game in this country. They've tried to create a barrier of entry that prevents those that might be more egalitarian in their thought process, more open, more democratic in their thought process, from really establishing themselves in the sport. And I've been thinking about this a lot with the recent passing of Rocco Commisso, the great, the former owner of the New York Cosmos, and he passed away as the owner of Fiorentina. Very, very controversial legacy to those who are establishment figures in U.S. soccer, but I think to those of us who are reformers who want to see a different way, again, maybe I took a political shot earlier that people who are on the conservative side of the aisle will not like. Rocco Commisso was not a liberal, by the way, in his own political views. I'm pretty sure he was a Trump supporter. So it doesn't affect me one way or another who people support. I thought Rocco Commisso was fighting the good fight against U.S. soccer. And one of the things Commisso highlighted, perhaps the most important thing he highlighted, was that the pro league standards, which, by the way, USL, for all their talk about promotion and relegation, really hasn't tried to do much to reform. The pro league standards are an anti-competitive mechanism that prevents any number of things that would benefit the sport on a mass scale from happening. The pro league standards say certain towns, certain cities cannot have professional teams because they're too small. The pro league standards say you have to have an individual owner worth a certain amount of money, so you can't have member or supporter-owned clubs. Bayern Munich and Real Madrid and Barcelona would not be possible in the United States as professional clubs because of the pro league standards. The pro league standards also talk about stadium size. They talk about things that don't affect player welfare or health. So as we go through this USL CBA negotiation, the pro league standards are supposed to be about professionalism. There's nothing about what a professional footballer looks like. The very essence of the game is not represented in the pro league standards. This is all about U.S. soccer gatekeeping, which is what they do with high ticket prices, what they do with their kind of exclusivity about what kind of journalists they allow to cover their national teams. And quite frankly, football is, as I like to call it, but soccer, as it's called in this country, is way down the pecking order of sports. It's irrelevant for the most part. You should want any coverage, any blogger, any vlogger, any YouTuber. You should want them to have access to the national team and to U.S. soccer events and U.S. soccer matches to cover the sport. Because quite frankly, the biggest brands in college football, they allow those people into their press boxes. They let the locked on guys in. They let the independent podcasters in. They're not playing gatekeeper. And their sport is infinitely more popular. In fact, there are individual college football programs that are more popular than the United States men's national team is in the entire country. Or the U.S. women's national team, for that matter. So they play gatekeeper. They have now a coach who's saying, shut up, we don't want to play politics. Talking about high ticket prices and the fact that this is a working class sport around the world. It's a sport built on solidarity. It's a sport built on supporters who are disproportionately working class. And I would estimate 98 to 99% of actual football fans in this country, soccer fans in this country, cannot afford tickets to this World Cup. That's not political, Coach Pochettino. That is the economic reality of being a football supporter in the U.S. We don't have a way of kind of regulating ticket prices the way they do in Germany. So if I'm a Borussia Dortmund fan, or I'm a supporter of Eintracht Frankfurt, I can become a member of that club for a season. Both clubs are in Champions League this year, by the way. Eintracht has recently won a European trophy. I can be full members and supporters of those clubs, going to every home match for less than it costs to buy a ticket, depending on the section, to one United States men's national team friendly. They don't know their potential consumer base. They don't know their potential customers. And this is why more and more people I talk to, it's incredible the number of people who tell me, because I think I'm an outlier and I feel like, oh my gosh, I'm the the redheaded stepchild going into this World Cup year because I have lost all my enthusiasm for the U.S. men's national team. A team, some of you who have known me for a long time know that I used to treat like it was a club team. I used to obsess about the USMNT during these long stretches when they wouldn't play matches and club football was going on, and obsess over the performances of guys that were in the national team. This is going back 20 or 25 years, quite frankly. But and I'm at a point where I don't care about the national team. I really don't. About the men's national team, I still very much have my finger on the pulse for the women. And I think I'm this outlier, and I talk to people all the time who said they have less enthusiasm for the USMNT than they've ever had before. And I think there's a reason for that. So the gatekeeping, it has to stop. The gatekeeping has to be put in the proper perspective.